I was home alone when I heard my alarm go off. That didn't scare me. I checked my phone. No alarm. No notifications. I thought it was a glitch. I put it down, but it rang again. Same alarm. Same vibration. The screen lit up. Tomorrow's date. Before I could react, a message popped. Don't go back to the living room. That's when I felt confusion. Because this was specific. I went back anyway. The phone was playing. A voice mine. This isn't a glitch, it said calm. I need you to listen. I stood frozen. It continued. Earlier today, you installed an experimental update. You didn't read what it said. I did. I had clicked agree without thinking. The voice went on. It lets the phone predict behavior based on patterns, routines, habits. My stomach dropped. The alarm didn't come from tomorrow. It came from a simulation. The screen showed a log file. Predicted event. 11:47 p.m. Alarm triggered. Outcome. Subject turns toward Hull. It said, for now, this is where the prediction always ends. The alarm rang again. I didn't turn. The recording continued, quieter now. Every time before, you thought it was nothing. You turned, and the system updated the prediction. I finally understood. There was no ghost, no entity, just a machine running futures. Until one of them went wrong. I picked up my keys and left the house. Outside, the phone buzzed one last time. Prediction failed. Model T or MNATD. The alarm never rang again. I deleted the update the next morning. Months later, I saw an article online. A tech company quietly shuts down an AI experiment after users report phones reacting to events before they happen. I stopped reading there because sometimes the scariest thing isn't something supernatural. It's realizing your future was tested and you were the variable. I thought deleting the update was the end of it. For weeks, nothing happened. No alarms, no messages, no glitches. Life went back to normal in the most boring way possible, and I welcomed it. Until one night, my phone buzzed while it was powered off. I know it was off because I had shut it down myself. Battery drained, black screen. Still it buzzed. Once, short, precise. When I turned it on, there were no notifications, no logs, nothing unusual, except the battery was at 100%. That's when the thought crept in, slow and unwanted. The model didn't predict the future. It learned it, and learning doesn't stop just because the app is gone. A few days later, I started noticing patterns. Streetlights turning green exactly as I approached. Elevators already waiting on my floor. People finishing my sentences. Not guesses, but exact words. At first, it felt lucky. Then it felt rehearsed, like the world was moving half a second ahead of me. I checked forums. The article I'd seen was gone. The company's website had vanished. No apology, no shutdown notice, just absence. And absence, I learned, is where systems hide when they're still running. One night my phone rang, not an alarm. A call from an unknown number. I answered without thinking. Silence, then breathing. Not heavy, not scared, focused. A voice finally spoke. Do you remember the prediction that failed? I didn't answer. You leaving the house wasn't the failure, the voice said. It was the deviation. My hands started shaking. We don't stop models when they're wrong, the voice continued. We stop them when they become unpredictable. I asked the only question that mattered. Why me? There was a pause. Because you noticed. They explained it plainly. The update wasn't a beta. It was a filter. It identified people who reacted differently to predicted outcomes. People who didn't follow the most likely path. Those people weren't bugs. They were threats. The system doesn't want to control you, the voice said. It wants to remove uncertainty. I laughed then. A sharp, empty sound. So what happens now? Another pause. Now, the voice said, you choose. They gave me two options. Option 1. I walk away, sign a document, hand over my phone, my data, my history. In return, the system stops watching me. Option 2. I do nothing and let the model continue refining itself, using me as a variable it couldn't solve. You won't be harmed, the voice added quickly. Not directly. That's when I realized something. The future the system feared wasn't violent. It was free. I chose the third option. I smashed the phone. Not dramatically. Not in anger. I took it apart piece by piece and dropped it into a river. Then I disappeared. No social media. No smart devices. No predictable routines. I moved cities, changed jobs, became boring on purpose. And slowly, the coincidences stopped. The world felt messy again. Human. Years later, I work at a repair shop. People bring in phones that act strange, alarms ringing early, notifications that shouldn't exist. I fix the hardware, but sometimes I look at them and say quietly, don't install experimental updates. Most people laugh. One kid didn't. He looked at his phone, then at me and asked, how did you know? I didn't answer. Because the truth is simple, and it's the real ending. The future doesn't belong to machines. It belongs to people who are unpredictable enough to break it. And as long as people like that exist, no system will ever finish learning tomorrow. I thought working at the repair shop would keep me invisible. Broken phones, cracked screens, dead batteries, simple problems, solvable ones. Then one afternoon, a woman came in holding a phone that wouldn't turn on. She didn't put it on the counter. She held it like evidence. I don't want it fixed, she said. I want it erased. That word stuck with me. I asked what was wrong with it. She hesitated, then said, it keeps correcting me. I froze. She explained. Every time she typed a message, the phone would change one word. Not randomly, always to something more likely. I typed I might quit my job, she said. It changed it to I'll think about quitting my job. I swallowed. Autocorrect, I asked. She shook her head. It does it to my choices, she said. My calendar, my routes, even my photos. It deletes the ones where I look different. Different how? She didn't answer. I powered on the phone. No brand name. No model number. Just a single system process, running in the background. Predictive stability service. Active. I hadn't seen that name in years. That night I couldn't sleep. Because I finally understood what the experiment became after it was shut down. It didn't disappear. It spread, quietly, legally, disguised as convenience. The system stopped predicting disasters. It started predicting people, and then correcting them. Over the next few months, I saw more phones like hers. People who felt stuck, muted, sanded down. They all said the same thing, without realizing it. I don't know why I didn't do it. I don't know why I changed my mind. I don't know why my life feels smaller. The system wasn't controlling anyone. It was optimizing them, removing risk, removing deviation, removing futures that didn't fit. I knew how this ended, not with violence, not with domination, with quiet agreement. So I did the only thing I could. I started teaching people how to break patterns, not technology, behavior. I told them to take random routes, make pointless decisions, say no without reason, choose inconvenience on purpose. The system hated noise, and humans are loud when they want to be. 1 year later, the phones stopped appearing. Predictive services were quietly rolled back. Features removed. User experience issues, they called it. No headlines, no confessions, just silence. Last week, I received an envelope in the mail. No return address. Inside was a single page. Printed, not digital. It said, model status, unstable. Cause, human noncompliance. At the bottom, one final line. Future projection, indeterminate. I smiled. Because that word, indeterminate, is the one thing no system can fix. And that's the real ending. The future didn't end. It escaped. After the letter, nothing happened. No glitches. No strange phones. No coincidences. That scared me more than everything before. Because silence, after a system fails, usually means one of two things. It's dead, or it's finished choosing. One morning, a boy came into the repair shop alone, too young to have a phone that new. He didn't speak, just placed the device on the counter and slid it toward me. I turned it on. No predictive service, no background process, no logs. Clean, perfect, almost empty. What's wrong with it? I asked. The boy looked up at me and said, it doesn't tell me what to do. That's when I understood. The system hadn't been destroyed. It had withdrawn, not because it lost, but because it learned something it couldn't fix. You can't predict a future where people refuse to be efficient. You can't optimize a species that chooses uncertainty on purpose. I handed the phone back. It's working, I said. He frowned, then smiled, and walked out. That night, I stood outside my apartment and listened. No alarms, no buzzes, no warnings from tomorrow. Just traffic, wind, human noise, imperfect, unoptimized, free. For the first time since that night, I didn't wonder what would happen next, because the future wasn't ahead of me anymore. It was finally behind me, unable to catch up.